Hello viewers, welcome to our lecture series on Indian ethos in management, and today we are going to talk about forward engineering for strategic gearing. This is going to be part 5 of our lectures on this topic. This lecture is under special segment for symbolic expression, and we have Ms. Manisha with us for symbolic expression. So, let us continue our discussion on forward engineering for strategic gearing, and in the previous lecture of mine I told you about analytical tools for forward engineering, that what are the different tools that we deploy in order to ensure the forward engineering, and we also had a discussion on the integrative framework of forward engineering. Now, continuing our discussion on the topic, today I will be telling you about the 3R framework of forward engineering. I have briefly told you in the previous lecture about what exactly these 3 R's are, and today I will be discussing with you in great detail about what is the art and science of radical change management, and eventually we will talk about changes, challenges, responses and initiatives. Changes, challenges, responses and initiatives. What is the managerial approach to industry and sector analysis, and then we will talk about these approaches and conclude this topic in today's lecture. So, let us start with the 3R framework of forward engineering. I told you in the previous lecture the way Hamel and Prahlad in 1994 suggested the idea of reinventing the industry, and later on Michael Hammer also suggested the idea of re-engineering the corporation, wherein this term re-engineering actually implied the radical redesign of business processes for drastic and dramatic improvements, and it was a tool for radical change management. When we say radical change management, it itself speaks volumes about the kind of change we expect from this kind of forward engineering. Although Hamel and Prahlad's idea of reinventing took all the academicians and practitioners beyond the re-engineering for preparedness to compete for the future. They started thinking about how to compete for the future and how to compete in the future, and that is why Prahlad also came up with a book called Competing for the Future, and there it is discussed in great detail. When these ideas they are correlated with the management control systems framework suggested by Anthony and Govindarajan, one can arrive at an integrative 3R framework of forward engineering. When we talk about these 3 R's, there are different levels at which we require. If you ask me at strategic level or at the level of policy, we need to reinvent the industry. The strategic option here is reinventing the industry. But when we move towards managerial level, here the strategic option changes. It becomes restructuring the enterprise in alignment with its reinventing. So, whatever decision we have taken, whatever option we have exercised at the policy level, here at the level of management, that is managerial level, we have to get aligned with its reinventing option. And at operational level, the option again changes, and it talks about re-engineering of business processes, which is popularly known as BPR, that is business process re-engineering. So, imagine, my dear learners, that at different levels the strategic options are different, and here the 3R framework actually talks about reinventing, restructuring and re-engineering. So, these 3 R's are actually having different meanings. One R is representing reinvention, that you have to reinvent, which means starting from the scratch. Imagine that you have nothing in the background and then you start reinventing the entire industry. That is done, that can only be done at the policy level. Whereas at managerial level, we start doing restructuring the enterprise. And of course, in order to ensure these two, we have to go for BPR at the operational level. So, it is the operational level which is going to execute whatever we have planned, we have designed, we have crafted at the policy and managerial level. So, this is actually the brief overview of 3R framework, which talks about reinvent, restructure and re-engineer. So, these 3 R's are basically an acronym to explain reinvent, restructure and re-engineer. Now, the question comes, what is needed here? when we go for these 3R, the only need which is very much pertinent here is need of proper alignment. So, there has to be a proper alignment between the 3Rs if you really wish to rejuvenate your business enterprise or your business organization. There is a research by Ghoshal and other researchers which suggests that the need for radical change management to make organizations responsive to the radical changes in social, political and business environment. So, if you wish to ensure the radical changes in social, political and business environment, you have to understand the need for radical change management to make organizations responsive to these changes. If you are not responsive to these radical changes, of course, you cannot ensure the alignment among 3Rs. So, the 3R framework suggests here is suggested here is very much helpful for the entire business organization, for all the corporates who are actually on this way and they wish to ensure the proper alignment among all 3Rs. So, for radical change management, that is called RCM, the 3Rs should be guided by the idea of continuous creative constructions, which I told you briefly in the previous lecture of mine, that we talk about CCC. The creative construction is required, but it need to be done constantly and consistently without any obstruction, without any barrier. So, you have to, whatever creative constructions you are doing, that need to be continuous, that should never halt at any level. And here the organizations undergo a continuing process of reinventing, restructuring and re-engineering. So, all these 3Rs, they go simultaneously. It is not like that you decided at the policy level, you decided at the managerial level that this is my strategic option, and then you took a pause that at operational level I won't do anything. Unless it is executed at operational level, you cannot find the desired results, and all this makes the organizations respond effectively to the radical changes taking place in the marketplace, which is actually very much important. So, the idea of forward engineering is basically rooted in the idea of CCC, that is continuous creative constructions through creative envisioning by moving back from the future. So, you have to actually ensure and understand that this 3R framework can be considered as a framework of forward engineering. People think that this 3R is actually a part of framework of forward engineering. Actually, it is the framework of forward engineering. You have to go for working, you have to work on all 3Rs, otherwise you will not be able to ensure the forward engineering. You will not be able to implement forward engineering in its letter and spirit. So, reinventing, restructuring and re-engineering, we have discussed that what we actually do into this. Suppose if somebody is asking you what is reinventing, what we are doing into it, you told us that you are going to reinvent the organization. So, reinventing is essentially a leadership function. It is the leader of the company or the organization who is going to ensure the reinvention, because the aim here is to create new dreams in consonance with the vision of the organization, and it is only the leader who can do. Managers can't do it. If you are simply into a task of management and you are working as a manager in a company, you cannot go for reinventing. You can do restructuring, or to some extent you can go for doing re-engineering, but reinventing is something which belongs to the top level management, or rather I would say it is actually a task to be handled by the leader of the organization. Anybody who is having those leadership skills can actually hold that flag of reinventing the organization. In restructuring, if you ask me, I would say, to conclude, that the aim here is to improve effectiveness by offering flexibility while restructuring the institutional structures and businesses. You need to be flexible. And here I would say that in place of being guided by the rule based organization, we should try to craft an organization which is principle based. We should look at the reality of the transactions, reality of the event, reality of the processes, rather than beating about the bush or only sticking to the rules that these are the rules and will be sticking to that. We should try to avoid being a rule based organization and ensure that We dream of an organization which is principle based. So, in re-engineering, the focus is on efficiency. We have to ensure that efficiently this entire re-engineering is done. Essence of this entire task of forward engineering lies in aligning these three processes. If you are successful in ensuring alignment, then of course you have implemented the forward engineering framework into your organization. Now, the question comes, what are the changes which we witness because of this? And in due course of that implementation, what are the challenges which we are facing? What responses are we getting? And what are the initiatives that we need to take? So, from a manager's point of view, these challenges, changes, responses and initiatives, they need to be discussed. And if you really wish to assist in forward engineering of any specific sector, we need to actually conduct a sectoral study, sectoral analysis. Without understanding the sector, you cannot implement the forward engineering. You can't ensure the 3 R's into your organization. And for that, there are different approaches to facilitate this analysis. Some of these approaches in the introductory part I tried to tell you, but here I will be telling you the most comprehensive approach which is being used to ensure this forward engineering implementation. To facilitate this analysis, we can use an approach which is based on environmental factors, which actually scans the behavioral, economic, strategic and technological factors and is called as best approach. So, here what we do, we actually analyze the changes and challenges in a given sector. Suppose if I have for instance, I have taken the automobile sector. So, there I would try to analyze that what are the changes which we are witnessing, what challenges this sector is witnessing in terms of behavioral, economic, strategic and technological factors. And here the responses and initiatives are developed. We have to develop responses and initiatives in the light of those challenges and changes which we are witnessing, so that we can ensure that we are implementing forward engineering in a right manner. It is something like understanding or scanning the environment in which I have to work. Without knowing the root cause, without knowing the problem, how can we offer a solution? So, the best approach is actually regarded as the best one, because it considers the environmental factors and accordingly responses and initiatives are designed. Rather, I would say these responses and initiatives, they are the customized one. They are according to the sector specific problems. So, if you ask me that, sir, in automobile sector I have done the analysis and the actions have been decided, the initiatives have been decided, responses have been decided. So, can I replicate the same in all other industries? Answer is no, because every industry has a specific problem or they have a specific set of challenges, and that is why this analysis is very much important. And while doing the analysis, your approach actually determines the success of your entire exercise. So, the approach need to be decided first. So, the best approach I told you, the first one is based on environmental factors. The second one is the functional perspective approach. Here what we do, we actually conduct the analysis, but not from the perspective of environmental factors, rather it is conducted from the functional perspective. For instance, the marketing function of the business, finance function of the business, human resource function of the business, product management, strategic planning. Here the 5 functions we have mentioned, but the list can be exhaustive, it can be endless depending on the type of organization you are catering to, depending on the size of industry you are catering to, or the type of functions in which you are involved. So, those functions would determine the number of functions to be added, and that is why we call it functional perspective approach. And according to this, we decide the changes and challenges in a sector in terms of strategy and government policy framework. It can be marketing initiative in the sector, that what are the dominant brands, who are our close competitors or the top competitors. If you ask me about the financial requirements, including the credit flows, what is the credit policy being followed in that industry, what is the credit term, how much time you take in converting your cash, that is your working capital cycle, journey from cash to cash. Human resource availability according to your requirement, the kind of skill set you need, whether you find those competent people in that industry as per your demand or not. What is your production system and your supply chain links and the kind of rapport you are maintaining with them. So, this functional perspective can also be used by the business organizations to conduct this sectoral analysis, and then you can determine your actions, your responses according to the requirement of the industry. The most comprehensive and the detailed approach which comes to us at number 3 is 9 points approach. Why do we call it 9 points approach? Because it comprises of 9 significant points, and here we conduct the in-depth analysis of the managerial changes and the challenges in a given sector. So, if you ask me, sir, why 9 points are there, can we have 8 points or 10 points? According to the requirement of the industry in which you are conducting the analysis, the points may increase. But yes, of course, if you take these 9 points, it is going to offer you the in-depth analysis, the ultimate analysis where almost everything is being covered into this kind of analysis. Now, let us start with the first point. The first point is, what is the specific nature of that sector's development matrix? What is there into that specific sector in which you are doing this 9-point analysis? What is the spread of your sector in terms of your corporate market, non-corporate market structures within the sector? Whether it is this sector is corporatized or it is having an atomized sector with dominance of small and micro enterprise, whether MSMEs are more dominant into the sector or you have corporate structure uniformly working in the sector. Which are the supporting institutions within the sector? Could you find some supporting institutions within the sector? If they are there, that also need to be understood. The nature of industry in terms of its attractiveness, how lucrative this industry is in terms of its profitability, in terms of its challenges, in terms of its capital investment. So, what are the points of attractions of entering into that specific industry? Whether those attractions are ensuring the huge inflow of the competitors or the new players in the market, or there is no attraction in the market and the hurdles are acting as a deterrent for competitors to enter, or you are enjoying a kind of monopoly in the sector. Is it a growth stage, maturity stage or decline stage of your product? So, whatever industry we are going to analyze, whether that industry is at the growth stage or maturity stage or decline stage. So, depending on the stage of the product life cycle, you can determine, you can conduct the analysis. Whether your industry is a sunrise industry or it is a mid-noon industry or it is sunset industry or it is a kind of evergreen industry where there is no dearth of demand, huge demand is there in the market. Whether you are going to deal with a leading sector or lagging sector of the economy. So, these components, my dear learners, they are going to actually help you in understanding the entire industry for which you are conducting the analysis. So, this is the first point where we actually talked about the nature of sector's development matrix. What is the nature of that specific sector for which I am conducting this 9-point analysis, or I am adopting or resorting to 9-point approach. So, first is understanding the nature of sector's development matrix. It is just like understanding the nature of a human being. If you are talking to your friend, if you really wish to work with your friend, understanding the nature of your friend is very much important and significant. Without understanding the nature of person, how can you decide your modus operandi or your way of communication? Second is critical driving forces. What are the critical driving forces in that sector? How are the supply demand cycles behaving? What is the behavior of or pattern of supply demand cycle in the market? What is the shakeout effect? If there is some irregularity in demand and supply, what is their shake out effect? And of course, without understanding that critical driving forces, we cannot decide, we cannot identify the risk which are involved into that specific sector. So, this will actually act as an alarm to you that in this sector it is the demand is not very uniform or supply is not very proper. So, accordingly you can plan for managing with the shakeout effect, how to deal with that situation. Third point is, what are the core competencies and core rigidities in the sector? Identifying that. Strengths and weaknesses of the sectors can be analyzed in terms of their competencies, non-competencies and incompetencies. Core competencies basically gives a reflection of the packages or bundles of expertise, that this is the expertise of this organization, this is the expertise or USP of this organization, skills, knowledge and know-how available in the sector, that in this sector this is a core competency, and it identifies that skill set, knowledge and know-how. Now, the question is, can this core competency or set of competencies be reconfigured, or can I rearrange, can I rationalize to these competencies to meet the new challenges? At times we have seen that these core competencies tend to create rigidities. Suppose if I am suffering from a specific problem, suppose I have twisted my ankle and I have to go to a doctor and asking for some relief, I have simply visited a physician. Now, physician is, in place of offering a solution to me, he is referring me to an orthopedician, that you visit to a specific doctor who deals with this area. So, at times that this core competencies, they tend to create rigidities. Rather than offering a solution to my teething problem, the doctor has referred me to another doctor, another place. So, what is the point of having that core competency which cannot offer me the instant solution to my problem? So, we have to identify those core rigidities in the industry which is arising out of its core competencies. There is no benefit of having that kind of core competency which is resulting into the rigidity. So, it should offer solution, it should not defer the problem, it should not say no to the solution. So, we need to identify ways to prevent core competencies which are turning into core rigidities. We should not be rigid into our behavior. Since these core competencies, they are rooted in comparative advantage and comparative advantages, we have to analyze both, particularly when we are conducting the sectoral analysis across nations. I am conducting a comparative study of India vis-a-vis some other country. It can be any country. So, when two nations are involved, we have to understand that what is comparative advantage. The fourth one is total value chain, or what we call as value chain matrix, and it should be identified to highlight the points of value addition. The fifth one is sectoral wheels. Now, when I say sectoral wheels, it is actually basically indicative of the key success factors in the sector. What is the trend in production, productivity, quality, capacity, value addition, profitability. These are basically the sectoral wheels. They actually make this sector moving. The sixth one is key players analysis. We have to understand who are the key players in the industry, which organization yield the market power, who is the market leader, what is their market share and the mind share also, who are at the low ends of and high ends of the market spectrum, and here we call it the enlightened leaders providing the leadership to the sector, who are controlling the agenda of industry level issues. So, in essence we can say who is dominating in the market, that we need to understand under the sixth point, that is key players analysis. And it is very much important for us to understand who is the market leader. We also call it, technically we call it the market spectrum analysis. Now the seventh point is bottlenecks analysis. What are the hurdles? Eighth one is the key problems analysis. We have to identify the problems which the sector is witnessing. What is the shopping list of problems? Which problem is more pertinent? What are the areas of concern? That comes into this point number 8. And the last point is sectors planning matrix. So, what are the anticipated changes and challenges in the short term, medium term and long term? That comes under the sector's planning metrics. Now, my dear learners, you must have understood that after taking care of these 9 factors, nothing is left, and that is why we call it the in-depth analysis. So, in 9 points approach, the focus is on these 9 points for an in-depth analysis of managerial changes and challenges in a sector if you wish to implement the forward engineering framework in a company. I hope you must have enjoyed today's lecture of mine. Thank you so much.